This is 1020s, a podcast from 1020 Marketing. 10 episodes, 20 minutes each. Because meaningful marketing gets to the point.
Welcome again to 1020s. I'm Bev.
I'm Mark. Hi, Bev.
Hi, Mark.
See what I did? I did it right this time.
You did it right. I'm very proud of you. You've grown. You've shown a lot of growth over the past 10 weeks.
Stop, please.
So this is kind of a special episode because it's our 10th 20. It's
the final episode of our first season.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a big relief to our graphic designer and editor too.
I think so too, especially because I'm the editor. It'll be a bit of a relief for sure. But I like it. It's fun for me. What I thought for our 10th 20, I thought a good idea would be to kind of do a little retrospective of all the previous episodes that we've had, because as I've been watching them, I noticed that there's actually like a really solid theme threaded across all the episodes. Even if we don't talk about it explicitly, it's kind of embodied by the people we talk to. And that theme is curiosity and openness, and how important it is to maintain that. I'll go in a little diatribe if you don't mind, if you'll indulge me.
Please, go ahead.
So I feel like, especially in the digital landscape, you know, how algorithms only feed us more of the same, right? So any preferences or cognitive biases just keep getting reinforced. Everything's catered to you, your information is presented to you. So then you don't do the work of seeking out alternate perspectives. And this makes people kind of entitled, right? Because like the digital world revolves around you. So then it's really easy to make that leap and expect the external world to revolve around you as well. When we spoke to Jake, he was talking about how his students' attitudes to receiving new information, it's so different, and how it's changed over time, how there's just a general lack of curiosity or enthusiasm. And it's like nobody thinks they have any reason to look outside of their own little bubble. And this is more so for the younger generation, but it's like an easy trap to fall into, I think.
Yeah, I think he brought it up in relation to the younger generation just because he's so exposed to them. But I don't think it's a problem exclusive to the younger generation at all.
No, but I think they're probably a really good case study for it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, like it takes work to change how people absorb information. And then I was thinking about our chat with Roxanne, and her company builds e-learning programs specifically for that reason, like to help people think and feel differently by teaching them how to do that work and to kind of look outside of themselves and be open to new paradigms. When we spoke to Haley, she was our first guest. And one of the things she mentioned was it's so important to be curious about your clients in sales, for example, because you, in order to learn from them and to serve them, you need to be open and you need to listen.
Yeah. So to me, I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think a lot of what we've talked about is the idea of, listening, understanding, having empathy. I think those themes came really through, but I think you also listed the episodes to me that stood out. And also I think we, in some ways, through the 8 guests that we've had throughout the season, we've really highlighted alternate ways to kind of look at information. So we talked about Roxanne and how, her company, Pure and Applied, specializes in putting together learning programs. We had David McDonald on from Environics Research Group. David is all about getting a 360 viewpoint, right? Like speaking to people, going out there, understanding what they're looking for, and then building your communications from a marketing point of view around the research findings. So, and I think even Mark Gorin talked about, the other Cleveland Mark Gorin. He talked about also about lack of curiosity and just exposure to information, the impact of AI on that bubble that we're in, right? Like I think that is the common theme, but I think that we also had people who help you understand why it's important to work around that.
Yeah. With Mark Gorin, you wouldn't have met him were it not for a sense of curiosity, right? He highlighted for us how social media has evolved and how people's intentions with it have evolved as well. And I think
A
that's
hundred
played
percent,
a really
a
big
hundred
part.
percent. Yeah. And, we have this theme that kind of threaded throughout the season, but it
Hmm.
wasn't by design. It kind
No,
of
it was
just
not.
happened. Yeah. So I find
That's
that
why it's
fascinating too,
cool.
because
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Like that's what made it so interesting. The fact that we had this vast array of people with different experiences and different roles and, from different areas of the marketing realm.
Hmm.
But the thing that tied it all together by happenstance
Yes.
was this whole idea of being curious and finding empathy in your day to day.
That is why I'm so fascinated by it, I think, just because it was not part of the structural integrity of the podcast.
Well, let's think about it a little bit, okay?
Okay.
Because I think that when we were talking initially about what we wanted this show to be, one of the ideas that you said was, I want to find, I might be paraphrasing, so it might not be perfect, but I want to find, the empathy in situations,
The humanness.
the humanness, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think some of the directions our questions, took with our guests was
Yeah.
born out of that sort of idea. So maybe it wasn't such an accident, is my point.
No, you're right. I mean, I guess I approach like most of my life that way. So maybe that's just one of my like motivators in life. And so maybe then subconsciously, every time I encounter somebody new, like there's certain things I want to bring out of them. I don't know. Either way, I thought it went really nicely. And then for the
It
people who
did.
we didn't like explicitly speak about it with, like they really embody that. Like, okay, Mika Rakoff-Bellman, for example, I don't think
Yeah.
we talked about it, but the fact that he has such a diverse background and he was so open to different areas of creativity, like that, a lot of that is based in curiosity.
But it was also a feeling, I find. Like it wasn't
Yes.
just about an explicit conversation that we've had with every guest. With
Mhm.
Mika, for example, to me, it was here's this guy I'd never met before.
Yeah.
He's from your circle. But I felt an immediate comfort with him, an
From my
immediate connection with him.
bloodline.
Well, I think it was
Yes.
just more of, he's a copywriter, he lives in Ottawa. Like there was just connection because I've
Yes,
been in his shoes before, kind of thing. So there's a
for
warmth
sure.
in those conversations for sure. And I
I
think
agree with you.
also that was an important element to me too. Like, I think it started to come out a little bit more toward the end of the season.
Mhm.
A little bit more like, certainly when we had the conversation with Mark Gorin, certainly when we had the conversation with Jake, I think those conversations resonated well with people because of the history that we had shared with those
Yeah,
people. Like I think,
there's an authenticity in the connection with those people. And then also with Eric, he's just like the living embodiment of somebody who's curious about stuff. Like he just does whatever he is curious about at the time. Like we don't even have to talk about it. Like he just is. He just does that.
so, and also with Daniel, like I didn't know Daniel very well before we had that
Mhm.
conversation. I found him to be very engaging. I found that conversation, I think I said to you after we wrapped up with him, that I found myself listening so intently to what he was talking about that I
Yeah.
almost forgot that we are there to
Have
ask
to
him
ask
questions and
questions.
further. Yeah, because I found what he was talking about was so compelling.
So then I have a little question for you.
Sure.
Looking back over the past 10 weeks, what are some of your learnings, would you say, or key takeaways?
I think in some ways I feel very lucky to have reconnected with people that are important people to me.
Yeah.
Learned more about people that I've never had this level of conversation with. But also like I feel like, I don't know, just grateful that our network is so well rounded,
Yeah,
full of like really smart people and people that we would
I
want to
agree.
have as guests, right? Like on both sides of the hosting coin. I've always said that the biggest benefit to me about
Mhm.
about taking the time on a weekly basis and recording the show is, dedicating an hour of time. I mean, it's not an hour in the final product, but it is an hour of our time.
Yeah.
To actually sit and talk about marketing with somebody and
Yes.
bring in a different viewpoint also, because often, I think we lack that. We're so busy in the day-to-day grind of getting things done, meeting deliverables, having client meetings, having calls between us on our team, that we
Yeah.
lose perspective because
Yeah,
we're
when
in
you're
our
in
bubble.
it, you can't see it when you're in it, but it's really important, I think, to kind of, like zoom out a little bit.
Yeah. So to me, I think that's always been my favorite, most valued part of hosting a podcast.
Yeah, I do this because it's fun and enjoyable and I learn things.
Last week, so I was checking out the threads in this Slack group, and
Yeah.
one of the guys in there said that he had started writing a newsletter, and he's been writing it for X amount of time and this and that, and he didn't know if he would find it valuable. But the main benefit that he gets out of writing his newsletter is that it makes him almost really think through his ideas and makes him make it concrete by putting it down in writing, right?
Yeah,
And I
that's why
actually
I
went
write.
into that thread and I said, that's exactly how I feel about the podcast. It's
Yeah.
exactly how I feel about it. It solidifies ideas in my mind for me, and it helps me expose my thinking to different points of view.
It's enriching.
That's
for
right.
you.
I want to recognize also that this is not the question you asked me,
It's
but
not.
this is the question that I answered.
Did you learn anything about yourself specifically, would you say? Or-
I mean, let me ask you the question. Like,
Yeah.
what did you get out of the 10 episodes from a personal development point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I always, because I'm a writer, like it's very important to me to zoom out and crystallize thoughts and ideas about things and get new perspectives. It's kind of why I write and kind of motivates me to write. But specifically with this, it's been a really fun project and a really good challenge for me. I think to be as concise as possible, because that's the parameter like we placed on this. Get rid of as much fluff as possible. I really enjoy editing them. I really, really enjoy like the structure of a conversation and, isolating that idea. And I've found that
I want to
really
say,
enjoyable. Yeah.
I want to throw something out there to you. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'll go out on a little bit of a limb here. But I think that when we first conceived of this idea and we started recording, and you took on the task and responsibility of piecing the shows together, I think you showed yourself that you can get out of your comfort zone and learn something new in a different process that's outside of writing.
Yeah.
That maybe you were a little uncomfortable with at first. I think maybe that's a takeaway that people who are watching the show won't see. But I think that's a takeaway that you could feel proud of.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point. And obviously something I didn't see because I'm why would I see any?
But am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I think for sure.
I mean, the tools that we're using make it less daunting, I would say. But the fact that you said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to figure it out. And you did it. And it's way outside of your normal day to day.
Yeah. And also it's like
tip of the hat to you,
thank
Beverly.
you. No, I've really enjoyed it. It's something I would love to keep doing. And also just the idea that like, okay, if we give this episode over to like our motion graphics person, then I would have to like be there the entire time being like, okay, this is how the conversation needs to go. We got to cut out this, we got to cut out that. Like I wanted it to flow a specific way, I found. And so it felt I needed to do that. And he just makes it look nice after.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I just make the conversation and the words flow in the way that I want them to.
What else did you get out of the first 10 episodes?
I also learned that I actually talk really slowly. Anytime I watch myself back, I'm like, how is there a way to like, I don't know.
You're doing it now.
Yeah, I talk really slowly. And maybe it's just because I think before things come out of my mouth, which is maybe a good thing, but.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I just wanted to know if there's any one guest or interview that changed your perspective on anything in particular, or just provided a new insight something you hadn't thought of before, or a connection between ideas that you hadn't thought of before?
I think I would have to go back and watch again because
Okay.
in the moment, I think I'm so into the conversation and I don't take notes. I just want to live in the
Yeah.
conversation. Um, but I think the one thing that I have felt,
Mhm.
and again, I'll reiterate, I think it really came through in our discussions with Mark Gorin
Yeah.
and Jake, and maybe to a certain, extent to Roxanne as well, and other guests. I don't want
Yeah.
to downplay it, but I think I just feel very touched and very lucky that when we call somebody, I haven't had to argue with anybody about
Yeah.
coming on. Like they're there for us. I think I just feel a lot of appreciation and warmth from the
That's
people who have supported us. Like,
yeah.
and in those two shows specifically, with Jake and Mark,
Hmm.
um, I felt very proud that, when I look back, we've maintained these relationships for so many years. And,
Hmm.
when I look at when I look at who we work with on a day-to-day basis, and I look at
Hmm.
who we were able to speak to throughout this process, I think the thing that I value the most out of the show, but out of our professional world too, is the relationships that I've built over the years. I think I'm really, really good at building and maintaining relationships and turning professional relationships into friendships. And that is something that I value quite a bit. So when I look at, at the beginning of the season, when we're planning on who we're going to ask,
Hmm.
I really have no concern that we're going to fill up the slots or not, right?
Yeah. I
Because
think
those
that's
people are always there for us.
a lovely takeaway, actually. Yeah, that's really nice. And also the two you just mentioned, Mark Gorin and
Jake Bolt.
Jake.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they were very much a part of your formative years in this industry. And I think that's amazing that you were able to maintain that
Yeah.
connection throughout, you know.
Yeah. Those two men actually really validated different stages of my career because Jake was there at the very beginning,
Hmm.
and under his tutelage, I became an award-winning copywriter. And I have stories about that time that are so important to me in my professional development. And then Mark Gorin came along. So it sounds so funny to say even still,
Yes.
but Mark Gorin came along at a time when I was transitioning away from writing more into consulting.
Hmm.
And he wasn't the first, but he was the first to really embrace what I was saying in such a way and made it a priority for his own business
Yeah.
in a different way than some of the other clients that I had worked with to that point as a consultant.
And you were valued like from the
Yeah.
get-go. And
Yeah,
that's
exactly. And
it's really
and
nice to feel valued.
I can go back to, co-hosting the first attempt at podcasting. And one
Hmm.
of the guests I had on that show was my marketing professor from Concordia University, who
That's
is a
lovely.
man who is now retiring.
Mhm.
So almost 30 years later, he's appearing as a guest because I've maintained a friendship with him all of these years.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I don't think a lot of people can say that. I think that's like a very unique and special attribute.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. What
When are
is
we
it?
coming back with season 2?
Maybe like September, because that seems like a natural, oh yeah,
Yeah, I
start.
was thinking September, early October.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
maybe that's
we can start working on it in September, but maybe
yeah,
it
exactly,
goes live
exactly.
in October.
I want to thank everybody for giving us the time and listening and sharing and commenting.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you,
been a really good first
guests.
season. Yes,
It
thanks
has.
everybody. I think I just sum it up and just being proud to be able to do this in the way that we're doing it with the people that we're having on. I think that's my
Agree.
takeaway. Yeah.
It's been so much fun.
Well, thanks, Bev, for being a good co-host.
Oh,
I
likewise.
don't know why my voice went like that.
Because you have range. Okay, I'll stop recording now.
All right, thanks, Bev.
Okay. Bye.